Long before the rise of Egypt, the empires of Greece, or the dynasties of China, the first true civilization emerged in the fertile plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, a land that would come to be known as Sumer. Here, in what is now modern-day Iraq, humanity took its first audacious steps toward urbanization, writing, and complex society. The Sumerians built cities that dwarfed anything that had existed before, with temples reaching skyward, intricate canals controlling the floods of the rivers, and marketplaces bustling with trade, craft, and culture. These people laid the groundwork for human civilization. Yet the most compelling part of their legacy is not found in their cities or inventions, but in the stories they left behind. The stories of the Anunnaki, the beings who allegedly came from the heavens to shape the destiny of humankind. The term Anunnaki roughly translates to those who from heaven to earth came, and in Sumerian texts, they're depicted as far more than abstract deities. They are described as powerful, intelligent, and immortal, or at the very least, extraordinarily long-lived, beings whose knowledge surpassed anything humans could comprehend at the time. In these ancient clay tablets, the Anunnaki are not distant, symbolic gods. They are active participants in the affairs of humanity. They oversee agriculture, dictate laws, organize labor, and even, according to some interpretations, manipulate human genetics to create a workforce capable of sustaining their grand projects. The Anunnaki's influence, the text suggests, was tangible, immediate, and inescapable, shaping not only Sumerian culture, but potentially the very essence of what it means to be human. The Sumerians left behind a vast archive of clay tablets, cuneiform records, and cylinder seals that form a tantalizing yet incomplete account of these beings. The text described the Anunnaki descending from the heavens in what are sometimes interpreted as flying vehicles, bringing knowledge of metallurgy, mathematics, astronomy, and law. These visitors appear as overseers and instructors, guiding early humans in the construction of cities, the cultivation of crops, and the establishment of societal hierarchies. Some interpretations of these records even suggest that humans were genetically modified or engineered to serve as laborers, combining divine essence with pre-existing hominid forms, a theory that, if taken literally, radically challenges conventional ideas of evolution and human origins. Among the most compelling of the Sumerian texts are the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Gilgamesh, which contain extraordinary accounts of creation, divine interaction, and cosmic knowledge. The Enuma Elish, often considered a creation epic, recounts the formation of the heavens and the earth, the separation of cosmic waters, and the establishment of order under divine oversight. While mainstream scholars treat this as myth, alternative interpretations suggest that the narrative encodes astronomical observations, advanced engineering concepts, and knowledge of natural cycles, information that could have been transmitted by beings of superior intelligence. Similarly, the Epic of Gilgamesh tells of encounters with immortal beings, journeys to distant lands, and quests for eternal knowledge, weaving a tapestry that blurs the line between legend and historical record. Each tablet is a fragment of a story that hints at a profound connection between humanity and beings who were both otherworldly and intimately involved in human affairs. The technological sophistication of the Sumerians also invites speculation about external influence. Their irrigation systems, which tamed the volatile Tigris and Euphrates rivers, were precise and highly organized. These canals, levees, and reservoirs allowed agriculture to flourish in a region prone to devastating floods. Such complex infrastructure, some argue, could have been devised with guidance from the Anunnaki, who were frequently associated with agriculture and the management of natural resources in the tablets. Similarly, the construction of ziggurats, massive terraced temples designed to reach toward the heavens, reflects an understanding of engineering and astronomy that would have been extraordinary for a civilization just emerging from prehistory. These architectural feats, alongside the Sumerians' advanced knowledge of metallurgy and trade, suggest a level of sophistication that prompts the question: were the Anunnaki merely mythologized overseers, or did they provide practical instruction and advanced knowledge to humanity? The Sumerian understanding of astronomy further deepens the mystery. They meticulously cataloged the movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars, and their records hint at knowledge of celestial bodies that were unknown to most of the ancient world. Some tablets describe the cycles of a mysterious planet called Nibiru, a celestial body associated with the Anunnaki and their periodic visits to Earth. Observations of this planet, combined with the precise tracking of known celestial objects, suggest that the Sumerians may have received direct guidance from beings with advanced astronomical knowledge. This precision is remarkable, considering that telescopes and modern instruments would not exist for thousands of years. Were the Sumerians recording myth, allegory, or actual extraterrestrial knowledge passed down by the Anunnaki? Beyond science and engineering, the Sumerians were also keenly interested in the divine and the esoteric. The Anunnaki are depicted as both benevolent and fearsome, teaching humans laws, ethics, and the mysteries of life, while also demanding respect, tribute, and service. Texts describe rituals, offerings, and observances designed to honor these beings and maintain balance with cosmic forces. Some scholars suggest that these practices encode practical knowledge about agriculture, astronomy, and social organization, disguised within allegorical or religious narratives. The duality of reverence and fear underscores the Anunnaki's role as both benefactors and controllers, a theme that resonates throughout the tablets and echoes in myths across multiple ancient civilizations. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of the Anunnaki mythos is the idea that they were involved in human creation. Certain passages suggest that the gods experimented with life, shaping humans as a hybrid species designed to fulfill specific functions, primarily labor, service, and intellectual guidance. If taken literally, these texts imply a form of genetic engineering, in which divine or extraterrestrial DNA was combined with that of pre-existing hominids to produce a new species capable of intelligence, creativity, and adaptation. Whether metaphorical or literal, these accounts challenge conventional ideas about evolution, raising the possibility that human civilization was jump-started or heavily guided by beings whose knowledge and technology were far beyond that of early humanity. The influence of the Anunnaki may have extended beyond Sumer itself. Some researchers point to parallels in ancient Egypt, the Indus Valley, and Mesoamerica, where myths of gods descending from the sky, celestial alignments, and sophisticated technological knowledge appear independently of Sumerian influence. Could these similarities indicate that the Anunnaki traveled across continents, guiding multiple civilizations? Or perhaps their knowledge spread indirectly through cultural transmission, trade, or shared memory, leaving behind echoes of a cosmic influence that shaped humanity's development in multiple regions. These questions remain unresolved, but they contribute to the profound allure of the Anunnaki mystery. Finally, the legacy of the Anunnaki continues to reverberate in human consciousness. Even as civilizations rose and fell, stories of divine visitors, cosmic travelers, and extraordinary beings persisted. The Sumerians preserved their experiences in clay, ensuring that future generations might glimpse a reality far beyond ordinary human experience. Modern researchers, from archaeologists to alternative historians, continue to pore over these records, attempting to separate myth from memory, allegory from actual events. Every tablet, seal, and artifact is a clue, a fragment of a larger puzzle that hints at a past in which humans and beings from the stars may have walked the earth together, shaping the course of civilization, technology, and culture. The Sumerian story is one of brilliance, mystery, and cosmic intrigue. Their cities, texts, and monuments provide a window into a civilization that achieved what many consider impossible for its time. Yet behind these achievements lies a deeper enigma: the Anunnaki, whose influence may have reached into every facet of Sumerian life, from architecture and agriculture to laws and human origins. Were they myth, metaphor, or visitors from the stars? The question is as compelling now as it was thousands of years ago, inviting us to peer into a hidden history where the boundaries between legend and reality blur, and where the origins of humanity may be far stranger and far more extraordinary than we have ever imagined. The land of Sumer, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, was more than a fertile plain. It was the birthplace of civilization itself. This was a world where humans first learned to write, to build cities, and to imagine the cosmos in ways that still echo across millennia. The Sumerians emerged not from isolation, but from a landscape that demanded innovation. Unpredictable floods, shifting soils, and the need to control the flow of life-giving water shaped their ingenuity. From these challenges arose the first great city-states: Uruk, Eridu, and Ur, each a testament to human ambition and creativity. But beyond the practical achievements, Sumer's story is also a story of mystery, myth, and the extraordinary. Walking through the ruins of Uruk, one can almost hear the pulse of a civilization that thrived more than 5,000 years ago. Streets once teeming with merchants, artisans, and scholars now lie silent beneath layers of sand, yet the echoes of human ingenuity remain. It was here that the Sumerians built monumental ziggurats, massive step pyramids that seemed to reach for the heavens themselves, symbolic stairways between earth and the divine. These structures were not mere temples. They were expressions of a civilization in dialogue with the cosmos, built with precision and purpose. The architecture, the layout of the cities, and the complex systems of irrigation all point to a society that understood not just survival, but mastery over its environment. And yet, interwoven with these achievements were stories of beings who allegedly taught, guided, and even governed humanity, the Anunnaki. Sumerian society was strikingly advanced for its time. They developed one of the earliest forms of writing, cuneiform, etched painstakingly onto clay tablets that have survived thousands of years. On these tablets, everything from administrative records to mythological tales was recorded, creating a window into the minds and lives of people who lived millennia before us. It is through these records that we glimpse their worldview, a complex pantheon of gods, cosmic orders, and creation myths that blend the human and the divine. They catalog the stars, the planets, and celestial events with remarkable precision, mapping the heavens with a sophistication that challenges modern understanding. And woven into this astronomical knowledge were stories of beings who descended from the sky, sharing secrets that would shape the foundation of human civilization. The Sumerians did not see their world as isolated. Trade routes stretched across deserts and rivers, linking distant cities, allowing for the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. They were keen observers, chroniclers of both earthly and celestial phenomena. In doing so, they laid the groundwork for science, law, and governance. The Code of Ur-Nammu and later the Code of Hammurabi, while often associated with Babylon, find their roots in this Sumerian tradition of codified order. But alongside these achievements of human intellect, there exists a parallel narrative, one that speaks of knowledge so profound, so advanced, that some argue it could not have originated purely from human innovation. The myths of the Anunnaki suggest guidance, oversight, and intervention from forces beyond ordinary human understanding. The contrast between the practical and the mystical defines Sumerian civilization. On one hand, there were engineers, farmers, and scribes mastering irrigation, trade, and record-keeping. On the other, there were priests and storytellers documenting interactions with gods who possessed immense knowledge and power. These divine beings, described with detailed characteristics, were integral to Sumerian life, not distant abstractions, but active participants in shaping society. Whether through ritual, prophecy, or teaching, the Anunnaki appear repeatedly in records as entities whose influence extended across all aspects of life. Their stories suggest a civilization deeply aware of forces beyond its control, yet intimately linked to them, creating a tapestry of myth and reality that is difficult to untangle. The Sumerian understanding of time and history was also remarkable. Their calendars, their tracking of lunar cycles, and their observations of the heavens reveal a civilization obsessed with the patterns of the cosmos. Some tablets even suggest knowledge of celestial phenomena that modern astronomers only discovered millennia later. This precision leads to questions that have fascinated scholars and alternative researchers alike. Were the Sumerians recording what they observed themselves, or were they recording knowledge imparted to them by beings far more advanced? Was this the wisdom of the Anunnaki, passed down through rituals, myths, and careful instruction? As we trace the rise of Sumer, it becomes clear that this civilization was more than a collection of city-states. It was the cradle of human thought, myth, and perhaps secret knowledge. The ingenuity of the Sumerians laid the foundation for every civilization that followed, yet it also hints at something deeper, a story that blends history with the extraordinary, science with myth, and human endeavor with potential guidance from beyond. The story of Sumer is not only about humans mastering the land between rivers. It is about the possibility that humans were being guided, observed, and influenced by beings whose presence changed the course of history itself. Walking through this ancient world, one cannot help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. The achievements of the Sumerians are undeniable, but intertwined with them is a narrative that challenges conventional understanding. This civilization, so distant in time, yet so close in influence, invites us to question the nature of history, the origins of knowledge, and the role of beings whose stories have survived the millennia. In the Fertile Crescent where rivers converge, the stage is set for mysteries that will unfold, leading us closer to the enigmatic Anunnaki and the secrets they may have left behind for humanity to discover. The Anunnaki, whose name resonates through millennia, remain one of the most enigmatic and debated elements of ancient Sumerian history. They are described in the cuneiform tablets as mighty beings, descended from the heavens, who held dominion over both the cosmos and the fledgling civilizations of Earth. Their stories are not confined to allegory or metaphor. The texts depict them as tangible agents, with specific roles, hierarchies, and purposes that influence the daily lives of humans. Some were gods of creation, others of the harvest, war, or wisdom, yet together they formed a pantheon whose reach extended far beyond mere mythology. Scholars have long debated whether these accounts represent symbolic storytelling or, as alternative theorists suggest, historical records of extraterrestrial visitors whose presence shaped the trajectory of humanity. The Sumerian word Anunnaki is often translated as those who from heaven to earth came, or princely offspring of Anu, the sky god. This terminology alone evokes an image of beings not bound by earthly limitations, entities who could traverse space, manipulate matter, and command forces beyond human comprehension. They were said to dwell in the heavens but maintained a close and often intrusive relationship with human affairs. The texts are explicit in describing the Anunnaki's interactions. They provided laws, oversaw construction projects, dictated religious rites, and even determined the fates of kings and cities. Such accounts present a civilization that was both profoundly advanced and deeply subservient to these cosmic overseers. Descriptions of the Anunnaki are striking in their detail. Some texts portray them as immense, powerful figures capable of immense feats, whose wisdom encompassed both the terrestrial and the celestial. Their appearance, often symbolic, includes attributes that suggest advanced knowledge. Helmets, tools, and regalia that some argue resemble technology more than ritual garb. They were described as immortal or exceptionally long-lived, capable of existing across centuries, watching generations rise and fall. To the Sumerians, they were both terrifying and revered, demanding obedience while imparting knowledge. Their influence so pervasive that the very notion of civilization may have been inseparable from their presence. Yet, the question that haunts researchers and enthusiasts alike is deceptively simple. Who were the Anunnaki really? Mainstream historians often interpret them as mythological deities, allegorical constructs to explain natural forces, human mortality, and social hierarchies. In this view, the Anunnaki are symbolic, representations of cosmic and earthly forces given narrative form. But the alternative perspective, more provocative and deeply compelling, suggests that the Anunnaki may have been more than myth. Their detailed accounts, precise astronomical knowledge, and the complex structure of Sumerian society hint at guidance from beings with capabilities far beyond contemporary humans. Were these gods actually visitors from another world, observers and influencers of humanity, whose impact was recorded with reverence and awe in the earliest texts we possess? The hierarchy of the Anunnaki is particularly fascinating. They were not a homogeneous group. Some were supreme, like Anu, the sky god and ruler of the pantheon, while others had specialized domains, overseeing agriculture, craftsmanship, justice, and war. Texts describe decrees issued by these beings, interventions in human disputes, and even punishments meted out for defiance. They were depicted as actively shaping human history, not passively inspiring it. This raises profound questions about the nature of power, control, and knowledge in early civilization. If the Sumerians truly regarded the Anunnaki as historical actors rather than allegorical figures, then the scope of their influence and the sophistication of their knowledge becomes even more extraordinary. Moreover, the Anunnaki were said to possess technology and wisdom that defied human comprehension. Some texts hint at aerial vessels, tools for mining, and mechanisms capable of affecting the environment. Symbols and descriptions found on tablets, cylinder seals, and reliefs have been interpreted by some researchers as evidence of advanced engineering or even spacefaring technology. These interpretations are contentious, yet they continue to intrigue those who study the intersection of ancient history and extraterrestrial theory. The idea that the Anunnaki were not mere myths, but advanced visitors reframes the very origins of civilization, suggesting that humanity's earliest achievements may have been guided, or even orchestrated, by beings from beyond Earth. The Anunnaki's influence is also woven into the very concept of kingship and governance. Sumerian rulers often claimed divine sanction, asserting that their authority derived directly from these beings. Kings were intermediaries between the human populace and the cosmic rulers, a relationship that reinforced the power of the Anunnaki and ensured that their guidance, or oversight, remained central to societal organization. This interplay between divine influence and human governance reflects a sophisticated understanding of authority, one that blurred the lines between religion, politics, and cosmic hierarchy. Yet despite the meticulous records, the nature of the Anunnaki remains frustratingly elusive. Were they gods, advanced extraterrestrials, or symbolic representations of natural and social forces? Perhaps they were all of these at once, a fusion of myth, memory, and history that transcends conventional understanding. What is certain is that their legacy shaped not only the spiritual and social structures of Sumer, but also the imagination of countless civilizations that followed. Every story, every tablet, every seal that references them is a thread in a tapestry of mystery, hinting at knowledge and influence that modern humans are only beginning to glimpse. The Anunnaki challenge our understanding of history itself. They force us to question whether humanity's origins are solely our own, or whether our earliest steps as a civilization were guided, influenced, or even initiated by beings from another world. As we delve deeper into the tablets, artifacts, and myths, the line between legend and reality begins to blur. The Anunnaki emerge as both architects and overseers, their presence woven into the very fabric of human existence. They are a reminder that the story of civilization is not just a chronicle of human ingenuity, but perhaps also a record of encounters with forces far beyond our comprehension. Forces that may have shaped who we are, what we believe, and how we understand our place in the cosmos. Hidden beneath the sands of Mesopotamia, buried for thousands of years, lie the clay tablets that form the backbone of Sumerian history. These are not mere artifacts. They are the whispers of a civilization speaking across millennia, carefully inscribed with symbols that, when deciphered, reveal a narrative both extraordinary and unsettling. Among these tablets are stories of the Anunnaki, accounts of their interventions in human affairs, and cryptic instructions that hint at knowledge lost to the modern world. Scholars have studied these tablets for centuries, yet many of their messages remain partially understood, tantalizing fragments that suggest a history far more complex than conventional archaeology allows. The so-called forbidden tablets speak of creation, of cosmic events, and of beings who wielded power beyond imagination, leaving behind mysteries that challenge our understanding of history itself. Some of the most famous of these records are the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, and the Epic of Gilgamesh, an epic that predates much of recorded history, yet contains surprisingly detailed references to divine beings interacting with humans. The Enuma Elish describes the formation of the heavens and the earth, the establishment of order from chaos, and the role of gods in shaping the world. While mainstream interpretations regard this as symbolic mythology, alternative readings suggest these texts may encode observations of celestial phenomena, advanced knowledge of engineering, and even instructions on how humanity was molded. The Epic of Gilgamesh similarly depicts encounters with beings of immense power, journeys that span the cosmos, and quests for immortality, hinting at interactions between mortals and those who existed on a far higher plane. Each tablet, each story, contains layers of meaning, as if the Sumerians were leaving behind a roadmap to understanding both the heavens and their own origins. What makes these tablets particularly mysterious is the level of detail they provide. Unlike myths that are vague or allegorical, the Sumerian records describe events with precision: who spoke, who acted, and what tools or knowledge were used. Some tablets reference mining operations, the extraction of precious metals, and technological processes that seem advanced even by today's standards. Alternative theorists argue that such specificity points not to mere imagination, but to observation or instruction from beings with knowledge far beyond human capability. The Anunnaki, they suggest, were not just mythic overseers. They were teachers, guides, and perhaps even experimenters, imparting knowledge that would lay the foundation for civilization. The translation of these texts is itself a study in mystery. Many tablets are fragmented or damaged, leaving gaps that scholars attempt to reconstruct. Some passages are ambiguous, with words that can be interpreted in multiple ways, and slight differences in translation can dramatically alter the meaning. This ambiguity fuels speculation. Are these gaps accidental, or were they intentionally encoded to conceal knowledge from those uninitiated in Sumerian wisdom? Some researchers propose that the forbidden nature of these tablets arises not from their age, but from the information they contain. Information that, if fully understood, could upend conventional narratives of human history and evolution. One particularly compelling aspect of the forbidden tablets is their apparent record of celestial knowledge. The Sumerians cataloged planets, stars, and celestial cycles with astonishing accuracy, long before modern telescopes or space exploration existed. Some tablets hint at the movements of a mysterious planet, Nibiru, which some interpretations link to the Anunnaki themselves. These records suggest that the Sumerians were not merely observers of the night sky, but recipients of knowledge imparted by those who came from it. Could it be that the Anunnaki shared information about the cosmos, about cycles of time, and about the forces that shape life on Earth? The very possibility raises profound questions about the origins of astronomical science and the source of human understanding of the heavens. Beyond the heavens, the Forbidden Tablets also address humanity's place in the world. Some passages describe the creation of humans, their purpose as workers or companions to the gods, and the delicate balance between divine authority and mortal agency. These accounts often carry a tone of awe and reverence, suggesting that the Anunnaki were both feared and respected. The act of recording such narratives in permanent clay tablets implies an intention to preserve this knowledge for posterity, as if the Sumerians understood that the secrets they were documenting might one day be needed, long after the civilization that birthed them had faded. Archaeological discoveries continue to uncover additional fragments that deepen the mystery. Cylinder seals, small engraved objects used to mark documents and possessions, frequently depict figures with otherworldly features, vessels in the sky, and intricate symbols whose meaning is still debated. These visual records, combined with the textual tablets, paint a picture of a civilization in constant dialogue with forces beyond itself, capturing not only the practical workings of society, but also the extraordinary interventions of beings who may have influenced every aspect of life. The tension between what is widely accepted by academia and what these tablets suggest is palpable. Mainstream historians emphasize human ingenuity, societal evolution, and the natural development of civilization, often dismissing the Anunnaki as myth. Yet the persistent complexity and precision of the texts, along with recurring depictions of otherworldly interactions, hint at a reality more enigmatic than most are willing to consider. The Forbidden Tablets challenge us to reconsider what we know about the past, forcing a confrontation with the possibility that our ancestors were not alone, that the first stirrings of civilization were guided, at least in part, by beings whose knowledge and power were beyond comprehension. As we examine these ancient records, the Forbidden Tablets invite us to look closer, to question, and to imagine. They are more than relics. They are a key to understanding a history that may have been deliberately hidden or forgotten. Within the clay, etched by skilled hands thousands of years ago, lies a story of cosmic influence, human development, and a legacy that continues to shape our understanding of who we are and where we come from. The tablets whisper across time, beckoning us to uncover the truth about the Anunnaki, to trace the paths of these ancient beings, and to confront a past that is stranger, richer, and more mysterious than we could have ever imagined. The cities of Sumer, with their towering ziggurats and bustling marketplaces, were marvels of human ingenuity, yet there are aspects of their construction and design that defy simple explanation. Some researchers have suggested that the sophistication of Sumerian architecture, irrigation systems, and urban planning may point to guidance from beings far more advanced than humans of that era. The Anunnaki, often described as towering, immortal figures of immense knowledge and power, are central to these theories. Could it be that the very foundations of civilization were influenced or even orchestrated by visitors from beyond our world? This question is at the heart of debates surrounding the role of the Anunnaki as architects, engineers, and teachers. Evidence often cited includes the remarkable precision of Sumerian constructions. The ziggurats, massive terrace structures designed as stairways to the heavens, were engineered to endure centuries, with meticulous attention to alignment, stability, and symbolic significance. Some of these edifices align with celestial bodies, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. While mainstream historians attribute such accomplishments to human innovation, alternative theorists argue that the knowledge required for such precision may have been imparted by the Anunnaki, who possessed advanced technological insight. The idea is provocative. The human hands executed these feats, but the designs, calculations, and guiding principles may have originated elsewhere, in the minds of beings who are not bound by the limits of earthly experience. Irrigation and water management in Sumer further illustrate the potential influence of the Anunnaki. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers, unpredictable and prone to flooding, posed a constant threat to life and agriculture. The Sumerians developed canals, levees, and reservoirs to control the flow of water, ensuring both survival and prosperity. Some scholars note the sophistication of these systems, suggesting that the knowledge required may have been transmitted by a higher intelligence. The Anunnaki, associated in texts with agriculture, water, and the sustenance of human communities, may have provided practical guidance, ensuring that the Sumerians could thrive in a challenging environment. In this view, irrigation was not merely a human innovation, but a collaboration between mortal ingenuity and divine, or extraterrestrial, knowledge. Art, symbolism, and metallurgy also hint at Anunnaki influence. Cylinder seals, often depicting beings in elaborate attire with distinctive features, suggest a level of technological sophistication that goes beyond decorative purposes. Some seals show figures operating strange devices, overseeing mining operations, or interacting with celestial objects. These representations have led to theories that the Anunnaki taught humans how to extract and process metals, knowledge that would have given Sumerians an unprecedented advantage in tools, weaponry, and construction. The idea of guided technological advancement challenges the conventional narrative of linear human development and opens the door to a reality in which early civilization was not entirely self-directed. Texts and myths reinforce the notion of the Anunnaki as instructors and overseers. The Sumerians wrote of deities who descended from the heavens, instructed humanity in agriculture, law, and craftsmanship, and maintained active involvement in the growth of society. These stories suggest a close, interactive relationship rather than distant worship. In some accounts, humans are portrayed as laborers or assistants, learning skills under the supervision of beings with knowledge beyond human reach. Whether these depictions are literal or allegorical remains debated, but the consistency of the narratives across tablets, cities, and generations implies a profound influence, one that could be interpreted as mentorship, guidance, or direct engineering of civilization. Mining and resource extraction, in particular, are often highlighted as evidence of Anunnaki involvement. Several texts describe the extraction of gold, silver, and other valuable materials, sometimes in connection with celestial events or ritualistic practices. Some theorists propose that the Anunnaki required specific resources for purposes beyond human understanding, perhaps to maintain technology, sustain life, or manipulate energy in ways that are lost to us. Human labor, organized and directed by these advanced beings, may have laid the foundation for both material wealth and the complex infrastructure of Sumerian city-states. This narrative paints the Anunnaki not merely as symbolic gods, but as practical architects of civilization, whose influence extended from the heavens to the mines below the earth. The question arises, if the Anunnaki were indeed guiding humanity, how did they do it without leaving overt evidence? Some suggest that knowledge was imparted subtly, encoded in rituals, myths, and symbolic art. Others argue for more direct interaction, perhaps through technological means that humans of the time could neither fully comprehend nor record accurately. The interplay between visible achievement and hidden guidance creates a tension central to the mystery of the Anunnaki. Civilization, as we understand it, may have been a collaborative creation, a fusion of human ambition and extraterrestrial instruction. Yet the implications of this theory go beyond archaeology. If the Anunnaki were architects and teachers, it suggests that humanity's earliest advancements were not entirely self-derived. Our understanding of creativity, innovation, and civilization itself must be reconsidered in light of potential guidance from beings with knowledge that transcended our own. It challenges the very notion of human exceptionalism and raises questions about the sources of knowledge, the role of mentorship in evolution, and the boundaries between myth and reality. In exploring the evidence, it becomes clear that the Sumerians left more than monuments. They left a record of collaboration between mortal and immortal, human and divine, natural and supernatural. The concept of the Anunnaki as alien architect provides a framework for understanding the extraordinary achievements of early civilization in a new light. Whether one interprets the stories literally or metaphorically, the notion that civilization itself may have been influenced by beings from beyond the earth is a tantalizing, almost cinematic idea, one that invites us to rethink the origins of knowledge, the scope of human achievement, and the mysterious forces that may have shaped the course of history. Among the most provocative and controversial theories surrounding the Anunnaki is the idea that they were directly involved in the creation or modification of human life itself. According to certain interpretations of the Sumerian texts, humanity was not simply the product of natural evolution, but rather the result of deliberate intervention by these powerful beings. In the ancient tablets, there are repeated references to the Anunnaki crafting humans, shaping their forms, and even bestowing upon them the spark of life. Some scholars argue that these passages are purely mythological, allegories meant to convey human dependence on the gods. Yet alternative researchers suggest they may describe genetic manipulation or bioengineering far ahead of any natural capability of the time. The notion that humans were designed or modified by extraterrestrial beings challenges every conventional understanding of human origins and forces us to reconsider what it truly means to be human. The texts describe a process in which the Anunnaki, needing laborers to perform the arduous tasks of mining, construction, and agriculture, created humans to serve their purposes. According to these accounts, early humans were fashioned from clay, an allegorical material representing the malleability of life, infused with divine essence. Some interpretations go further, suggesting that the Anunnaki combined their own genetic material with that of pre-existing hominids, producing a hybrid species capable of labor, creativity, and intelligence. These early humans, while mortal, carried the imprint of their creators, both physically and intellectually, establishing a direct connection between the Anunnaki and the very foundations of human civilization. The Sumerian texts hint at a hierarchical approach to creation. Some Anunnaki, such as Enki and Ninhursag, are described as having hands-on roles in the development of early humans. They oversaw the process, monitored the results, and intervened when necessary to ensure that the newly created beings were capable of performing their intended functions. This narrative raises profound questions. Was humanity's intelligence, creativity, and adaptability a natural evolutionary process, or was it accelerated by intervention from these advanced beings? And if humans were indeed engineered, does that imply that knowledge, culture, and civilization were gifts passed down by extraterrestrial mentors rather than solely human achievement? The idea of genetic experimentation is reinforced by the repeated references to the Anunnaki as immortals who could manipulate life in ways humans could not. They were described as having profound knowledge of medicine, biology, and the very essence of existence. Texts sometimes describe the gods breathing life into clay figures, crafting humans with precision and intention, and ensuring that these creations could grow, reproduce, and thrive. To some researchers, these descriptions are remarkably consistent with the modern concept of genetic engineering, even if the language is mythological. The parallel between myth and potential reality is striking, suggesting that the Sumerians may have witnessed or recorded interactions with beings capable of manipulating life on a fundamental level. The implications of this theory extend far beyond the past. If the Anunnaki were indeed involved in the creation of humanity, then our understanding of evolution, biology, and the origin of intelligence may need to be reconsidered. It raises the possibility that human DNA carries traces of intervention, a blueprint left behind by advanced beings who guided our development over millennia. Some researchers have pointed to anomalies in the human genome as potential evidence. Gaps, accelerations, or unexplained sequences that conventional science struggles to explain fully. Whether or not these are linked to extraterrestrial influence, the theory suggests that the story of human creation is far more complex and layered than traditional narratives allow. Furthermore, these interventions may explain why early civilizations, such as Sumer, Egypt, and Mesopotamia, displayed such rapid advancement compared to previous human societies. Knowledge of agriculture, architecture, metallurgy, and astronomy emerged with remarkable sophistication, almost as if humanity had been equipped with the tools and understanding necessary to build civilizations far earlier than natural development alone would allow. In this context, the Anunnaki were not merely observers. They were active participants in shaping human potential, guiding the species toward cultural, intellectual, and technological milestones. The notion of human creation by the Anunnaki also ties into spiritual and philosophical interpretations. Myths describe humans as a bridge between the divine and the earthly, beings infused with intelligence and awareness, but bound by mortality. This duality, divine influence tempered by human limitation, reflects a worldview in which humanity is both extraordinary and dependent, capable of innovation and culture, but still under the guidance of higher powers. Such narratives echo throughout history, in religious texts, creation myths, and even esoteric teachings, suggesting that the idea of guided human evolution has persisted in multiple cultures long after the fall of Sumer. As we explore these accounts, the tension between myth and potential reality becomes palpable. Were the Anunnaki literal creators, shaping humanity through advanced biotechnology, or were they symbolic representations of natural forces and human aspiration? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, in a story that blends observation, memory, and interpretation over thousands of years. What is clear, however, is that the Anunnaki's influence, whether physical, intellectual, or symbolic, shaped the very essence of humanity. Our origins may be intertwined with theirs, our evolution guided by hands from beyond the stars, leaving behind a legacy of both wonder and mystery that continues to captivate scholars, researchers, and seekers of hidden history. By considering these possibilities, we are forced to confront profound questions about identity, purpose, and the nature of life itself. Are we the product of chance, the result of natural processes unfolding over eons, or are we, in some way, the creation of beings whose knowledge and power surpass our understanding? The Sumerian tablets hint at answers, fragments of a story written in clay, preserved across millennia, inviting us to explore a past where the boundaries between gods and humans, myth and science, creator and creation, are not as distinct as we might like to believe. In the shadow of these ancient texts, the Anunnaki emerged not merely as deities of legend, but as architects of life itself, leaving humanity with a question that resonates through time. What does it mean to be truly human if our very essence was shaped by visitors from the stars? As the story of the Anunnaki unfolds, one of the most captivating and controversial ideas emerges: that these beings were not merely gods of legend, but ancient astronauts, visitors from the stars who traversed the cosmos to interact with humanity. Across the Sumerian texts, The descriptions of their origins, technology, and celestial movements suggest a presence that is not confined to Earth. They arrive from the heavens, often associated with distant stars or planets, and their knowledge of astronomy, cosmology, and the cycles of the universe surpasses what one might expect from a civilization thousands of years old. Could it be that the myths, rituals, and celestial records of Sumer were actually documentation of encounters with extraterrestrial beings? This idea challenges conventional history, suggesting that human civilization may have been influenced or even seeded by intelligent life from beyond our solar system. The Sumerians were meticulous observers of the night sky, cataloging the movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars with astonishing precision. They documented the orbits of known celestial bodies and hinted at others whose existence remains debated, the most famous being the mysterious planet Nibiru. Some theorists argue that this planet was considered the home of the Anunnaki, a distant world whose influence reached Earth in profound ways. Ancient texts describe the arrival of these beings in terms that, when interpreted literally, suggest spacecraft descending from the sky, precise timing of arrivals linked to celestial events, and even accounts of engineering feats that seem to correlate with the Anunnaki's activities on Earth. Whether literal or allegorical, these records reveal a civilization keenly aware of the heavens and their potential impact on life below. Descriptions of the Anunnaki's tools and vehicles further fuel the ancient astronaut theory. Some texts and cylinder seals depict beings with elaborate helmets, winged devices, or vessels moving through the air, sometimes alongside flames or beams of light. While mainstream scholarship often interprets these as symbolic representations of divine power, alternative researchers suggest they may depict technology unknown to the Sumerians but observed and recorded with remarkable accuracy. The notion that ancient humans could witness alien spacecraft and encode these observations into religious and mythological narratives is both fascinating and unsettling. It suggests that the Anunnaki were not only present, but that their technology was advanced enough to inspire awe, fear, and reverence in those who saw it firsthand. The Anunnaki's apparent familiarity with distant star systems and cosmic cycles strengthens the possibility of their extraterrestrial origin. Some texts reference their association with stars beyond the solar system, including Sirius and Orion, hinting at knowledge of the cosmos that modern astronomers are only now beginning to map in detail. If these references are more than metaphor, they suggest a civilization capable of interstellar navigation, observation, and perhaps even colonization. The precision with which these celestial movements were recorded implies either first-hand experience or extraordinarily detailed transmitted knowledge, reinforcing the theory that the Anunnaki were advanced travelers from another world. The implications of the ancient astronaut hypothesis extend to human culture and development. If the Anunnaki were visitors from the stars, their influence may have shaped not only technological and agricultural practices, but also religion, governance, and social structure. Kings, priests, and scribes who claimed divine sanction may have been intermediaries for beings whose origin was truly extraterrestrial. Rituals, myths, and astronomical observations could be interpreted as both acts of devotion and as coded records of advanced knowledge, ensuring that the wisdom of the Anunnaki was preserved across generations. In this context, civilization itself becomes a hybrid creation, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien guidance, with the Anunnaki as unseen architects of both culture and technology. Some interpretations suggest that the Anunnaki were not just visitors, but colonizers, with specific missions on Earth tied to resource extraction, genetic experimentation, and the establishment of social order. Mining operations, for instance, are mentioned in multiple texts as directed or supervised by the Anunnaki, sometimes with human labor performing the manual tasks under their guidance. This combination of cosmic knowledge and practical oversight implies a level of planning and organization that would be extraordinary for any civilization, ancient or modern. The Sumerians' detailed records may therefore represent a carefully preserved account of these operations, documenting the presence of beings who straddled the line between myth and reality. As these narratives unfold, it becomes clear that the Anunnaki were portrayed as both divine and technological, beings who could traverse space, manipulate the environment, and shape human destiny. Their role as ancient astronauts blurs the line between legend and history, inviting us to consider that human civilization may have roots far beyond the Earth. The idea that our ancestors recorded the presence of extraterrestrial visitors in meticulous detail adds a layer of mystery to every tablet, seal, and artifact that has survived the millennia. Every depiction of a winged figure, every reference to the heavens, and every story of guidance from the sky contributes to a tapestry in which the cosmos and humanity are intertwined. In contemplating the Anunnaki as ancient astronauts, one is forced to reimagine the narrative of human history. We are no longer merely observers of myth or products of chance. We may be inheritors of knowledge, culture, and even genetic material imparted by beings from another world. The heavens, once distant and incomprehensible, become a landscape of interaction, observation, and influence, with the Anunnaki as the celestial intermediaries who shaped the trajectory of civilization. In this light, the Sumerians were not just early humans. They were witnesses, recorders, and participants in a story that spans the stars, a story that continues to challenge our understanding of who we are and where we came from. The possibility that humanity's earliest myths, technologies, and social structures were influenced, or even guided, by visitors from another planet elevates the mystery of the Anunnaki to a cosmic scale. It suggests that our origins are intertwined with forces beyond Earth, that knowledge and innovation may have been seeded from the heavens, and that the story of human civilization is inseparable from the story of beings who came from the stars. As we continue to explore the tablets, artifacts, and myths, the presence of the Anunnaki as ancient astronauts provides both explanation and enigma, a narrative that is as compelling as it is unsettling, inviting us to reconsider the very nature of history, mythology, and human potential. Central to the mystery of the Anunnaki is their purported connection to a celestial body often referred to in ancient texts as Nibiru. According to Sumerian records, Nibiru was no ordinary planet. It was described as a world of the gods, a place from which the Anunnaki originated and to which they periodically returned. The very idea of a hidden or distant planet influencing human civilization has captivated researchers, astronomers, and alternative historians alike. While mainstream science does not recognize Nibiru as a known planet, the consistency and detail of its descriptions in the tablets suggest that it played a pivotal role in Sumerian cosmology. The Anunnaki's journeys between Nibiru and Earth, as depicted in these texts, are intertwined with stories of creation, resource gathering, and guidance of early humanity, giving this mysterious world a central place in the cosmic narrative. Descriptions of Nibiru in the Sumerian texts are striking in their precision and frequency. The planet is often associated with a long orbital period, a celestial body that arrives from the outer reaches of the solar system and returns after centuries, influencing events on Earth. Some theorists link this cycle to cataclysmic events, shifts in climate, and even human history itself, suggesting that the Anunnaki's arrivals and departures were recorded meticulously by early astronomers. These observations were embedded in myths, star charts, and ritual calendars, ensuring that knowledge of the planet and its influence endured across generations. To the Sumerians, Nibiru was not just a physical place, but a cosmic marker, a world whose presence shaped their understanding of time, destiny, and the divine. The association of Nibiru with the Anunnaki extends to their technology and abilities. Tablets describe the gods descending from the heavens, arriving in what can be interpreted as spacecraft, guided by precise knowledge of celestial movements. Some cylinder seals depict objects in the sky that resemble modern interpretations of flying craft, often accompanied by radiant energy or symbols of power. If these depictions are interpreted literally, they suggest that the Anunnaki were capable of interplanetary travel, navigating not only the solar system, but potentially the vast distances between stars. This celestial connection elevates the Anunnaki from mythic deities to cosmic travelers whose influence extended beyond Earth and whose knowledge of the heavens was unparalleled. The implications of Nibiru's connection to Earth and the Anunnaki are profound. It suggests that human civilization was not only influenced by beings from another world, but that these beings operated according to cycles and patterns dictated by their home planet. The resources, knowledge, and guidance they provided may have been timed to correspond with their arrivals, creating a rhythm of influence that shaped agriculture, technology, governance, and religious practice. The Sumerians' awareness of these cycles, recorded in their star charts and astronomical texts, points to a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, possibly imparted by the Anunnaki themselves. This intertwining of cosmic knowledge and terrestrial development highlights the depth of the Anunnaki's impact on humanity. Some interpretations extend Nibiru's influence to global myths and legends. Cataclysmic events, divine interventions, and stories of gods descending from the sky appear in many ancient cultures, not just Sumerian. Could these recurring themes be cultural memories of Nibiru's passages, recorded as stories of gods, floods, or celestial phenomena? The idea that a distant planet could leave such an enduring imprint on human history challenges conventional astronomy and archaeology, yet remains a compelling avenue for those who study the Anunnaki. These connections suggest a cosmic pattern, linking celestial events to human development and reinforcing the notion that the Anunnaki were not merely symbolic figures, but visitors whose presence followed predictable cycles. The Sumerians' fascination with Nibiru also reveals their understanding of the universe as a living, dynamic system. They observed the heavens, mapped the stars, and encoded their knowledge into myths and records that have survived thousands of years. By connecting a planet with the divine beings who guided them, they created a framework in which human destiny, cosmic events, and divine influence were inseparable. Nibiru was not simply a distant world. It was a symbol of power, knowledge, and continuity, a reminder that the Anunnaki's presence and influence extended far beyond the boundaries of Earth. In examining the connection between Nibiru and the Anunnaki, we are confronted with questions that challenge the limits of history, astronomy, and imagination. Was Nibiru a real planet, observed by the Sumerians? And if so, how did it influence human civilization? Or is it a symbolic construct, representing the Anunnaki's otherworldly origin and authority? Regardless of interpretation, the presence of Nibiru in the Sumerian texts underscores the deep cosmic awareness of these ancient people and the extraordinary beings they recorded. It is a world that exists at the intersection of myth, astronomy, and hidden history, a reminder that the story of the Anunnaki is not confined to the earth, but reaches into the heavens, inviting us to look beyond what we know and consider the possibility of a cosmic connection that shaped human destiny from the very beginning. As we peer into the sky and trace the movements of the stars, the story of Nibiru and the Anunnaki continues to resonate. It forces us to contemplate the boundaries between history and myth, science and legend, terrestrial life and cosmic influence. Every tablet, every inscription, every myth preserved across millennia is a testament to a civilization that understood itself as part of a larger universe, a universe in which beings from another world may have played a pivotal role in the shaping of humanity, guiding its development, and leaving behind a legacy that still challenges and inspires us today. The influence of the Anunnaki was not confined to Sumer alone. Evidence suggests that their presence, or at least the echoes of their guidance, may have extended far beyond Mesopotamia, touching civilizations across the ancient world. From Egypt to the Indus Valley, from Mesoamerica to the highlands of South America, striking similarities appear in myths, architecture, and cosmology that hint at a shared influence. These connections suggest that the Anunnaki were either travelers of vast distances or that their teachings were carried across generations, transcending geography and time. While mainstream historians often dismiss such parallels as coincidental or the result of cultural diffusion, alternative researchers see them as evidence of a global legacy, pointing to a civilization or a presence whose reach was far more extensive than we have been led to believe. In Egypt, for instance, the pyramids and elaborate tombs reflect a level of architectural and astronomical precision reminiscent of Sumerian ziggurats. Some theorists argue that the same knowledge that guided the construction of Mesopotamian cities also influenced the layout of the Nile Valley, the orientation of temples, and the design of monuments. The Egyptian gods, like the Sumerian Anunnaki, were described as beings of immense power and intelligence, descending from the heavens to guide human development. Texts and hieroglyphs frequently depict deities with unusual features, sometimes associated with celestial symbols, raising the question, could these figures represent the same or similar entities recorded by the Sumerians? The parallels are compelling, suggesting a shared narrative of divine or extraterrestrial intervention in the shaping of human civilization. The Indus Valley civilization, less well understood due to the undeciphered nature of its script, also displays remarkable urban planning and engineering. Cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa were laid out with grid systems, sophisticated drainage, and precise measurements, echoing the ingenuity seen in Sumer. While there is no direct textual evidence linking the Anunnaki to the Indus Valley, the technological and architectural similarities raise tantalizing possibilities. Could the knowledge that facilitated Sumerian advancements have been transmitted across regions, either through migration, trade, or the guidance of the Anunnaki themselves? The repetition of advanced techniques in distant lands suggests more than coincidence. It implies a network of influence, whether human, divine, or extraterrestrial. Mesoamerican civilizations, such as the Maya and the Olmecs, also offer intriguing points of comparison. Their astronomical knowledge, calendar systems, and monumental constructions reflect an awareness of the cosmos that rivals or even surpasses ancient Sumerian records. Temples and pyramids were often aligned with celestial events, eclipses, and solstices, suggesting a continuity of knowledge about the heavens. Some researchers propose that these traditions may have been inspired or influenced by the same beings, or at least the same type of knowledge that the Sumerians recorded in their tablets. The echoes of Anunnaki influence, if real, could represent a hidden thread connecting disparate civilizations, a shared understanding of the cosmos and human potential that defies conventional explanations. Artifacts and symbols found in various parts of the world further reinforce the idea of a global Anunnaki presence. Winged beings, divine figures with unusual headgear, and celestial motifs appear not only in Mesopotamia, but also in ancient carvings and reliefs across continents. These images, often dismissed as purely mythological or symbolic, could be interpreted as records of encounters with the Anunnaki, preserved in cultural memory, even as civilizations rose and fell. The consistency of these motifs over time and space suggests that humanity's earliest myths may have a common origin, rooted in experiences that transcended the boundaries of individual cultures. Trade routes and cultural exchanges in antiquity may also have played a role in spreading Anunnaki influence. From the Fertile Crescent to the Mediterranean and beyond, goods, ideas, and religious concepts traveled along rivers, deserts, and seas, enabling civilizations to share knowledge and technology. Some theorists argue that the Anunnaki, aware of human networks and mobility, may have deliberately guided these exchanges, ensuring that their teachings reached multiple regions. In this way, the influence of these beings could have been both direct, through presence and instruction, and indirect, through the propagation of culture, religion, and technology across continents. The implications of a global Anunnaki presence are staggering. It suggests that humanity's earliest civilizations were not isolated achievements, but part of a coordinated or guided expansion of knowledge and culture. It also raises profound questions about the universality of myth. If similar stories of gods descending from the heavens appear in Sumer, Egypt, Mesoamerica, and beyond, could these myths represent collective memories of real encounters with advanced beings? Perhaps the Anunnaki were the unseen architects of a civilization that spanned the world, leaving behind traces in art, architecture, and mythology that modern scholars are only beginning to decode. In exploring the Anunnaki's global reach, one sees not just a series of coincidences, but a pattern, a cosmic footprint etched into the foundations of human history. Civilization, from Mesopotamia to the Americas, may carry the legacy of these enigmatic beings, their influence woven into every temple, tablet, and monument. The story that began in Sumer extends across continents and millennia, reminding us that the origins of human culture, knowledge, and power may be far more complex and far more extraordinary than we have been taught. The Anunnaki, whether divine, extraterrestrial, or something in between, emerged not merely as myths of one civilization, but as a thread connecting the ancient world, hinting at a hidden history that stretches across the globe and invites us to reconsider humanity's place in the cosmos. The story of the Anunnaki does not remain confined to the borders of ancient Sumer. Instead, it seems to ripple outward, leaving traces across multiple civilizations that span continents and millennia. If we follow the threads of these ancient myths, a pattern begins to emerge, suggesting that the influence of these enigmatic beings, or at least the memory of them, was far more widespread than conventional history allows. In Babylon and Akkad, civilizations that succeeded Sumer, the Anunnaki continued to hold sway over the imagination of the people. Their names shifted, their roles evolved, but the essence of the gods remained. Powerful, immortal beings who watched over humanity, intervened in human affairs, and possessed knowledge far beyond that of ordinary mortals. Scholars of comparative mythology have long noted the striking similarities between the Sumerian deities and the pantheon of later Mesopotamian cultures. While mainstream historians attribute these similarities to cultural continuity or religious syncretism, alternative researchers argue that the recurrence of these motifs suggests a shared origin, or perhaps direct involvement by the same intelligences who inspired the earliest myths. Beyond the cradle of Mesopotamia, curious echoes of these stories appear in other corners of the ancient world. In Egypt, for example, certain aspects of Sumerian myth, cosmic order, divine kingship, and advanced knowledge bestowed upon humanity seem to mirror the roles of the gods in the Nile Valley. The Egyptian pantheon, with its complex hierarchy and celestial associations, bears an uncanny resemblance to the stories of the Anunnaki, particularly in the idea that gods were intermediaries between the heavens and humankind. Some researchers point to the sudden sophistication of Egyptian civilization, from monumental architecture to precise astronomical alignment, as evidence that knowledge may have been transmitted or inspired by these ancient visitors. The mystery deepens when we examine the timelines. Sumer flourished around 4,500 BCE, while the early dynastic period in Egypt emerged roughly a millennium later. Could there have been a transfer of ideas, technology, or even direct guidance from one civilization to another, orchestrated by these enigmatic figures that history calls the Anunnaki? Moving even further afield, the footprints of the Anunnaki, or something resembling them, appear in Mesoamerica. The myths of gods descending from the skies, imparting knowledge, and guiding humanity bear striking parallels to the Sumerian narratives. The Maya spoke of deities who shaped the world, established calendars, and instructed humanity in agriculture and social organization. Similarly, the Olmec civilization, often considered the mother culture of Mesoamerica, left behind colossal stone heads and intricate ritual sites, evidence of a culture deeply attuned to celestial cycles and advanced knowledge. Some theorists argue that these distant civilizations may have been influenced by the same intelligences remembered in Mesopotamia, perhaps through oral traditions, migration, or even direct visitation. The idea challenges conventional archaeology, which often treats each culture as entirely independent in its development. Yet when patterns emerge in myths, iconography, and cosmology across continents, one cannot help but wonder whether these civilizations were glimpsing the same truths through the lens of their own language and symbolism. Even in the more familiar context of the Mediterranean world, echoes of the Anunnaki can be traced. Greek mythology, with its pantheon of powerful deities who interacted with mortals, shares intriguing thematic elements with the older Sumerian narratives. The concept of gods descending from the heavens, imposing their will and guiding, or sometimes manipulating, human destiny is central to many Greek myths. While scholars often interpret these as purely cultural stories, a closer examination reveals recurring archetypes: the sky-born deity, the intermediary of knowledge, and the divine enforcer of order. Some researchers propose that these recurring motifs may point not to coincidence, but to a persistent memory of the Anunnaki, refracted through the lens of successive human cultures, each interpreting their experiences in the language of gods and heroes familiar to them. The remarkable thing about these cross-cultural comparisons is not just the similarity of the myths themselves, but the sophistication of knowledge attributed to these beings. Time and again, ancient cultures describe beings with advanced understanding of astronomy, mathematics, architecture, and governance, skills that seem disproportionately advanced for their era. This raises a provocative question. Were these commonalities mere coincidence, or were they inspired by actual contact with a higher intelligence? Alternative historians argue that the recurring motif of sky beings teaching humanity suggests a shared source of knowledge, one that transcends borders and epochs. Whether this was a literal visitation by extraterrestrial intelligences, symbolic representations of lost wisdom, or encoded knowledge passed down through generations, the consistency of these themes cannot be ignored. The cross-cultural presence of Anunnaki-like figures also challenges the notion of isolated invention. Conventional history tends to present civilizations as discrete and self-contained, each rising independently with their own unique achievements. Yet when one looks at the global tapestry of ancient mythologies, a different picture emerges: a network of civilizations separated by vast distances, yet all reflecting a similar narrative structure of divine intervention, celestial guidance, and advanced knowledge imparted to humanity. This broader perspective encourages us to reconsider the origins of human culture itself, not as an accidental emergence, but as a story intertwined with the enigmatic footprints of beings whose existence mainstream history is hesitant to acknowledge. Ultimately, tracing the influence of the Anunnaki across cultures invites a radical rethinking of ancient history. It suggests that humanity's earliest myths, regardless of geographic location, may be fragments of a larger, shared memory of interaction with a higher order. From Mesopotamia to Egypt, from Mesoamerica to the Mediterranean, the recurring themes of sky gods, divine instruction, and cosmic oversight create a tapestry that refuses to be ignored. It is as though the Anunnaki left an indelible mark on human consciousness itself, a legacy encoded not just in clay tablets or stone monuments, but in the collective memory of civilizations, whispering across time and space. For those who dare to follow these threads, the journey leads to a world where the boundaries between myth, history, and the unknown blur, hinting at secrets that may yet reshape our understanding of who we are and where we came from. Despite the tantalizing clues scattered across ancient texts and archaeological sites, the story of the Anunnaki is one that has been repeatedly obscured, forgotten, or actively suppressed. History, as it has been recorded and taught, often favors a narrative of human progress driven solely by ingenuity, effort, and cultural evolution. Yet when we examine the fragments of Sumerian tablets, ancient myths, and anomalous artifacts, a different picture emerges, one in which humanity may have been influenced, guided, or even manipulated by intelligences far beyond its comprehension. The question naturally arises, why would such knowledge, if it existed, be hidden from view? Who had an interest in keeping the truth about the Anunnaki concealed, and for what purpose? Some researchers argue that the suppression of this knowledge began almost immediately after the height of Sumerian civilization. The rise of empires such as Babylon and Assyria brought with it new political and religious orders, often at the expense of older traditions. In rewriting history to serve their own agendas, these civilizations could have deliberately altered or reinterpreted the myths of the Anunnaki, transforming them from figures of literal authority into symbolic deities, thereby stripping humanity of the memory of their true power. Religious and political institutions, it seems, have long been adept at shaping narratives to maintain control, and a secret history of contact with godlike beings would have been a story too disruptive for rulers who relied on the obedience and subservience of ordinary people. The idea of deliberate concealment does not stop in ancient Mesopotamia. Throughout history, we see repeated instances of knowledge being restricted or lost. Libraries burned, texts hidden, and oral tradition suppressed. The Library of Alexandria, one of the greatest repositories of ancient knowledge, was destroyed in ways that left critical gaps in our understanding of the past. Scholars who have studied esoteric traditions suggest that these losses were not random accidents, but part of a broader pattern. Information about humanity's origins, about advanced knowledge shared by the Anunnaki, and about the true nature of the gods, was systematically removed from the historical record. Whether motivated by fear, religious orthodoxy, or the desire to consolidate power, the effect was the same: an intentional erasure of evidence, leaving only fragments and whispers behind. Even in modern times, there are those who claim that certain archives, artifacts, and research findings related to the Anunnaki have been suppressed. Some point to ancient tablets that remain unpublished or locked away in private collections. Others cite whistleblowers and researchers who suggest that institutions controlling archaeological and historical research may discourage or even discredit findings that challenge established narratives. These modern controversies echo the ancient pattern. Powerful entities controlling the flow of information, shaping the story humanity is allowed to believe about its own past. The result is a landscape in which truth is obscured, half hidden between fact and fiction, where the curious must navigate a maze of both evidence and denial to glimpse the larger story. What is particularly striking about this suppression is how persistent it has been. While mainstream history teaches that civilizations arose independently and gradually, the anomalies in the archaeological record continue to challenge this view. Ziggurats, megalithic structures, and sophisticated irrigation systems appear suddenly and without clear precedent. Astronomical alignments in Sumerian temples mirror knowledge that should have been impossible for a civilization of that era. When such discrepancies are studied, researchers often encounter resistance, skepticism, or dismissal. Alternative interpretations are labeled fringe, conspiracy, or pseudo-history, effectively discouraging exploration of the very questions that might lead to the truth about the Anunnaki. Some theorists propose that the suppression was not merely cultural, but existential. If humanity were to understand the extent of the Anunnaki's involvement in shaping early civilization, it might challenge deeply held beliefs about free will, autonomy, and the origins of human knowledge. The idea that humans were not entirely the architects of their own development, but were influenced or guided by beings of immense power, could be profoundly unsettling. Religious institutions, political authorities, and even educational systems, conscious or not, may have participated in maintaining a simplified narrative that protects societal structures and human self-image, while keeping the extraordinary reality hidden just out of reach. Yet, despite these efforts to conceal the truth, fragments of the Anunnaki story persist, like embers glowing beneath layers of ash. The surviving texts, myths, and symbols whisper hints of a past that is far richer and more mysterious than official history admits. Cylinder seals depict beings with unusual attributes. Myths speak of humans created for labor, and accounts hint at advanced knowledge shared by these skyborn figures. These remnants, tantalizing in their ambiguity, invite the modern seeker to read between the lines, to piece together a puzzle that has been deliberately scattered across time. The suppression of knowledge, rather than extinguishing the story, may have made it more compelling, fueling a curiosity that refuses to be silenced. Ultimately, the study of Anunnaki suppression challenges us not only to reconsider the past, but also to question the forces that shape history itself. It asks us to wonder how much of what we take for granted about human civilization is curated, edited, or selectively presented. By acknowledging the possibility that knowledge was hidden, we begin to see patterns where others see only chaos. We start to recognize that the story of the Anunnaki is not merely about gods or aliens, but about humanity's ongoing struggle to understand its own origins and potential. In the silence left by lost texts and suppressed truths, the Anunnaki continue to speak, urging us to look deeper, to question more boldly, and to confront the possibility that the reality of our past may be stranger, richer, and more extraordinary than we have ever been told. While the echoes of the Anunnaki in ancient texts and ruins are fascinating, some researchers argue that the influence of these beings may not have been confined to the distant past. Alleged modern encounters and unexplained phenomena suggest that their presence, or at least the memory of it, continues to manifest in ways that challenge conventional understanding. Across the world, accounts emerge of strange visitors, advanced technologies glimpsed in fleeting moments, and inexplicable patterns in human history that some claim are consistent with the intervention of the Anunnaki. These modern anomalies, when viewed through the lens of Sumerian myth, hint at a continuity that defies time, suggesting that humanity may never have truly left the watchful eyes of these ancient overseers. UFO sightings, for example, have long been a source of fascination, speculation, and controversy. While mainstream explanations often attribute them to misidentified aircraft or natural phenomena, certain reports describe craft with characteristics remarkably similar to the descriptions of the sky vehicles in Sumerian and Mesopotamian iconography. Eyewitnesses frequently describe hovering objects with precise, almost mechanical movements, radiating light, or displaying capabilities far beyond human engineering. Some ufologists speculate that these craft could be remnants of technology left behind, or maintained, by the Anunnaki, a direct link between the mythic past and the mysterious present. Whether interpreted as literal evidence or symbolic echoes, these encounters raise a compelling question. Are humans witnessing the same intelligences that inspire the myths of gods walking among mortals thousands of years ago? There are also numerous claims from whistleblowers, researchers, and insiders who allege that governments and secret organizations have long been aware of extraterrestrial contact, some of which may connect directly to the Anunnaki narrative. From supposedly classified documents to accounts of recovered artifacts with unknown origin, these stories suggest that evidence of non-human intelligence has been deliberately hidden from public view. Skeptics dismiss such accounts as conspiracy theory, yet the consistency of these narratives, repeated across decades and continents, makes it difficult to ignore entirely. They echo the ancient pattern of suppression, reinforcing the idea that knowledge of the Anunnaki, or their technology, has always been selectively shared and carefully guarded. Even beyond the realm of craft and whistleblowers, researchers point to unexplained phenomena in archaeology and geology that may signal Anunnaki influence. Sites like Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, the pyramids of Egypt, and certain megalithic structures across the globe reveal architectural precision, astronomical alignment, and engineering skill that seem to surpass the known capabilities of ancient civilizations. Some theorists argue that these achievements are not the result of isolated human ingenuity, but rather evidence of knowledge imparted by advanced beings who observed and guided early societies. These modern echoes of the Anunnaki suggest that their influence may have been continuous, hidden in plain sight, and perhaps still accessible to those willing to look beyond conventional explanations. Interestingly, some accounts describe interactions not only with vehicles or artifacts, but with beings themselves. Reports from various parts of the world speak of humanoid figures with unusual features, tall, radiant, sometimes with an almost otherworldly aura, who appear to observe, guide, or even communicate with humans in subtle ways. While such testimonies are rare and often dismissed, they parallel ancient descriptions of the Anunnaki as overseers, teachers, and regulators of human activity. The similarity between these modern encounters and the mythic record is striking. Beings descending from the heavens, influencing human society, and leaving behind a trail of knowledge that is both enigmatic and tantalizing. To some, these stories are evidence that the Anunnaki never truly left, but instead continue to operate on the peripheries of human perception, hidden by layers of disbelief and skepticism. Another dimension of these modern encounters lies in unexplained patterns of knowledge, symbolism, and prophecy. Some researchers note that sudden leaps in human technology, unanticipated discoveries, or cryptic insights in science and culture mirror the transformative interventions attributed to the Anunnaki in Sumerian texts. These moments, when viewed in isolation, might seem coincidental, but when connected to the broader narrative, they suggest the possibility of guidance or interference by an intelligence beyond our understanding. Whether through inspiration, hidden archives, or subtle influence, the continuity between past and present seems to imply that humanity remains linked to forces first glimpsed in the dawn of civilization. Skeptics, of course, argue that these connections are illusory, the product of human imagination and the tendency to find patterns where none exist. Yet the weight of recurring motifs, from ancient tablets to modern eyewitness accounts, cannot be dismissed lightly. The Anunnaki, whether literal beings, symbolic archetypes, or an amalgamation of both, persist in human consciousness, bridging the millennia between the dawn of civilization and the present day. Their alleged presence in modern encounters, sightings, and phenomena creates a tension between belief and skepticism, fact and speculation, leaving a lingering sense that history may not be as linear as it seems. Ultimately, these modern echoes serve to blur the boundary between myth and reality. They invite us to consider that the story of the Anunnaki is not confined to ancient tablets, lost cities, or fragmented myths, but may be an ongoing narrative that intersects with human experience even today. The mysteries persist, subtle and elusive, reminding us that the past is never truly gone and that the forces that shaped early civilizations might still be quietly shaping the trajectory of humanity. In exploring these contemporary traces, we confront the possibility that the Anunnaki's influence is not merely a relic of history, but a living, unfolding presence, waiting for those who dare to recognize it. The mysteries of the Anunnaki are not confined to their mythical actions or modern echoes. They also extend into the knowledge they supposedly imparted to humanity. In Sumerian texts and symbolic depictions, the Anunnaki are often described as bearers of wisdom and technology far beyond the capabilities of early civilizations. From advanced metallurgy to astronomy, irrigation to celestial navigation, the sophistication of these skills suggests an intimate understanding of the natural world that would have taken humans millennia to achieve independently. This raises a profound question. If humans were indeed recipients of such knowledge, was it taught, inspired, or forcibly given? And if so, to what end? Astronomy, for instance, appears repeatedly in the Sumerian record. The precise tracking of celestial bodies, knowledge of planetary movements, and the mapping of constellations all appear as critical elements in the myths surrounding the Anunnaki. Some tablets suggest that the gods themselves descended from specific planets, bringing with them the secrets of the cosmos. Scholars who study archaeoastronomy point out that the alignment of certain ziggurats and temples with the stars reflects an understanding of celestial mechanics that seems improbable for societies without telescopic tools or advanced mathematics. Alternative theorists argue that these alignments were not coincidental, but part of an intentional transmission of knowledge by the Anunnaki, ensuring that humans would possess, however indirectly, a functional comprehension of the heavens. In this light, ancient structures become more than monuments. They are repositories of encoded wisdom, a subtle but enduring legacy of knowledge that has shaped humanity for millennia. Metallurgy and architecture also reveal anomalies that defy conventional explanations. The Sumerians produced tools and implements of extraordinary precision, crafted with a skill and understanding of materials that seem inconsistent with their technological stage. Some researchers suggest that the Anunnaki provided instruction, guiding early humans in ways that allowed for sudden leaps in technological capability. Stonework, brickmaking, and the construction of ziggurats exhibit levels of planning, durability, and spatial awareness that imply the guidance of an intelligence with advanced engineering knowledge. This notion, radical as it may sound, is reinforced by the global parallels seen in megalithic sites, from the pyramids of Egypt to the stone circles of Europe, where precise construction defies easy explanation and points to a shared, possibly non-human source of knowledge. Even in agriculture, the influence of the Anunnaki is evident. Sumerian texts describe irrigation systems, crop rotation, and domestication techniques that transformed barren landscapes into fertile regions capable of sustaining dense populations. While these advances could have emerged through human innovation over time, the suddenness and sophistication of their implementation hint at guidance. The myths themselves support this interpretation. The gods are described as actively teaching humans the skills necessary to manage land, harvest crops, and build enduring civilizations. In this sense, the Anunnaki were not only observers, but participants shaping both the physical and cultural environment of early humanity. This intertwining of myth and practical knowledge raises the possibility that much of what we attribute to human ingenuity might actually be the inheritance of a far older intelligence. Moreover, Sumerian writings hint at knowledge that transcends practical application and enters the realm of the esoteric. Concepts of cosmology, divine order, and the structure of reality appear intertwined with the lessons imparted by the Anunnaki. These teachings often come in symbolic or allegorical form, challenging modern interpreters to decode the true meaning. Could these have been early attempts to transmit not just technical knowledge, but also insights into the nature of existence itself? The implication is profound. If humans were recipients of both material and metaphysical knowledge, The Anunnaki may have been guiding the development of civilization not only in a technological sense, but in shaping human consciousness and understanding of the universe. Some theorists even argue that the Anunnaki's knowledge included genetics and biology. The creation myths, which describe the crafting of humans to serve as workers or assistants, suggest an understanding of reproduction and manipulation of life forms. While traditional historians dismiss these accounts as allegorical, alternative interpretations see the possibility of early experimentation in genetic engineering or selective breeding, facilitated by the Anunnaki. If true, this would make their knowledge not only advanced but profoundly transformative, altering the very course of human development. Every mythic account, every depiction of divine intervention, could then be interpreted as a reflection of their technological and intellectual influence, encoded in the language of stories and symbols. The legacy of this knowledge is further complicated by what has been lost or hidden. Many texts remain undeciphered or only partially understood, and others may have been deliberately destroyed or withheld, leaving a tantalizing but incomplete record. Yet even in fragments, patterns emerge: an insistence on teaching, a focus on technology, and the integration of practical skills with spiritual wisdom. The Anunnaki are portrayed as guides, instructors, and overseers, ensuring that humans had access to the tools and insights necessary to build enduring societies. It is as if they left behind a coded roadmap, a subtle curriculum embedded in the physical and mythological landscapes of the ancient world. Ultimately, exploring the technology and wisdom of the Anunnaki forces us to reconsider the origins of human knowledge itself. Were these advancements the product of human creativity alone, or were they influenced, accelerated, and shaped by beings whose intelligence and purpose surpassed our own? The evidence is ambiguous yet compelling, suggesting a story where myth, technology, and human progress are inseparable, intertwined in ways that challenge conventional history. The Anunnaki, whether real, symbolic, or a mixture of both, emerge not just as distant gods of legend, but as potential catalysts of civilization itself, leaving behind a legacy that continues to echo in every field of human endeavor, from architecture and astronomy to agriculture, and perhaps even the understanding of life itself. The story of the Anunnaki is not merely one of gods, aliens, or advanced technology. It is also a story about the human spirit, consciousness, and potential. Ancient myths suggest that the Anunnaki were not only architects of civilization, but also catalysts for the evolution of human awareness. In Sumerian texts, we see recurring motifs of enlightenment, divine instruction, and the cultivation of wisdom, hinting at a deeper purpose behind their interventions. The gods are often portrayed as imparting more than practical knowledge. They teach moral codes, societal structures, and even ways of thinking that elevate humans beyond mere survival. This suggests that humanity's spiritual and intellectual development may have been guided subtly or directly by these enigmatic beings, leaving an indelible mark on the trajectory of civilization. From this perspective, the myths take on a dual meaning. On the surface, they recount the creation of humans, the rise of cities, and the acquisition of tools and knowledge. Yet beneath the narrative lies an encoded message about human potential, consciousness, and the hidden capabilities of the mind. Scholars of comparative mythology and esoteric traditions have long noted that many ancient texts were designed not simply to record events, but to teach lessons. Lessons about the universe, human nature, and the delicate balance between power and responsibility. The Anunnaki, in this sense, appear as both teachers and guardians, guiding humanity not only in practical matters, but also in understanding its place in the cosmos. These stories suggest that humans were never meant to remain passive observers. They were being prepared to become active participants in the unfolding of cosmic and earthly knowledge. This spiritual legacy is particularly evident in the Sumerian emphasis on the alignment of human life with cosmic cycles. Celestial events, planetary movements, and the rhythms of nature were not merely observed. They were integrated into the fabric of society and governance. Temples, ziggurats, and ceremonial sites were aligned with stars and solstices, reflecting a belief that human activity could harmonize with the movements of the heavens. Such knowledge was both practical and symbolic. By understanding the cosmos, humans could cultivate prosperity, maintain order, and align themselves with forces beyond immediate perception. Alternative theorists argue that this cosmic awareness, carefully embedded in ritual, architecture, and myth, represents an intentional effort by the Anunnaki to awaken a sense of interconnectedness and higher awareness in humanity, a spiritual inheritance hidden within the material world. Even more intriguingly, the Sumerian texts hint at a form of encoded consciousness or memory. Certain myths speak of knowledge that is passed down selectively, reserved for those prepared to receive it, or encrypted in symbolism that requires insight to decode. This approach suggests that the Anunnaki may have understood the potential risks of sharing advanced knowledge indiscriminately, recognizing that humanity could misuse power without the maturity to wield it responsibly. In essence, the myths convey a sophisticated pedagogical method, one that blends material instruction with ethical and spiritual guidance. Humans, in this framework, are not merely passive recipients of divine wisdom, but active participants in an evolving journey of understanding, learning to perceive reality through the lens of both science and spirit. The influence of the Anunnaki on human spirituality also appears in motifs that resonate across cultures. From Egyptian cosmology to Mesoamerican myths, we see repeated patterns of deities imparting knowledge, guiding society, and shaping human consciousness. These narratives often emphasize the connection between the divine, the cosmos, and human potential, suggesting that early humans were being conditioned to see themselves as part of a larger universal order. By studying these motifs, modern researchers argue that the Anunnaki may have left a legacy not only in material culture and technology, but in the very ways humans perceive and interact with reality. The myths are more than stories. They are frameworks for understanding human potential and our relationship to forces beyond ordinary perception. Some theorists even suggest that this spiritual legacy could be linked to latent human abilities that remain underexplored. Abilities such as intuition, heightened perception, and perhaps even forms of collective consciousness or psychic awareness may be echoes of the cognitive and spiritual frameworks introduced by the Anunnaki. While such ideas challenge conventional science, the persistence of these motifs across millennia and cultures suggests that there may be a kernel of truth behind the allegory, a recognition that humanity's potential is far greater than what is commonly acknowledged. The myths, then, serve not just as history, but as a guide, pointing toward capabilities and understandings that humanity has only begun to rediscover. The philosophical implications of this perspective are profound. If the Anunnaki were indeed instrumental in shaping human consciousness, then the evolution of human thought, culture, and spirituality is not entirely organic, but co-created. Civilization, morality, and intellectual achievement may have been influenced, in part, by external intelligences who recognize the potential for humans to rise beyond their limitations. The stories of gods, teachers, and celestial overseers thus become more than mythology. They are echoes of a profound partnership between humanity and forces that transcend ordinary understanding. In every mythic encounter, in every symbol etched into clay or stone, there is the suggestion that humans are capable of far more than they realize, and that the seeds of extraordinary potential were sown long before the dawn of recorded history. Ultimately, the spiritual legacy of the Anunnaki invites reflection on the deeper purpose of human life. It challenges us to see civilization not merely as a sequence of inventions and conquests, but as part of a continuum of knowledge, wisdom, and consciousness stretching back to the earliest myths. By tracing the threads of Anunnaki influence through history, architecture, ritual, and symbol, we begin to perceive a vision of humanity capable of harmonizing with the cosmos, accessing hidden knowledge, and cultivating a deeper understanding of itself. The Anunnaki, whether real, symbolic, or somewhere in between, leave behind a message that human potential is boundless, that the journey of consciousness is ongoing, and that the mysteries of the past may hold the key to understanding not just who we were, but who we might yet become. After tracing the echoes of the Anunnaki through ancient Sumer, their mysterious influence across civilizations, and their lingering presence in modern myths and phenomena, we arrive at a point where the disparate threads converge, revealing a picture both astonishing and unsettling. The Anunnaki, long dismissed as mere myth or allegory, begin to emerge as potentially real architects of human history, beings whose impact may extend far beyond what conventional scholarship acknowledges. From the first cities of Sumer to the temples of Egypt, from Mesoamerican stone circles to coded symbols embedded in mythologies worldwide, a pattern appears. One of intervention, instruction, and manipulation, executed on a scale that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about human development. At the heart of this revelation lies the Sumerian narrative itself, preserved in clay tablets that survived millennia. These texts describe beings who came from the heavens, who had advanced knowledge and technology, and who took a direct role in shaping human society. The Anunnaki are portrayed as both creators and overseers, establishing social hierarchies, teaching agriculture and metallurgy, and even participating in the genetic crafting of humanity. While skeptics dismiss these descriptions as symbolic storytelling, the level of detail, combined with the sudden emergence of complex civilization in Sumer, suggests something extraordinary. Here, we encounter a civilization that appears far ahead of its time, capable of feats that seem to require guidance or knowledge from a source beyond ordinary human experience. The myth and the archaeology intersect, hinting at a reality that may have been deliberately obscured, yet cannot be entirely erased. The global footprint of the Anunnaki amplifies the intrigue. As we've explored, echoes of these beings appear across multiple continents and cultures, often separated by thousands of miles and centuries. The Egyptian gods, the Mesoamerican sky deities, the mythic figures of Greece and beyond, all share characteristics reminiscent of the Sumerian Anunnaki: godlike authority, knowledge of the cosmos, and the power to shape human destiny. These recurring patterns suggest not random invention, but either a shared memory of actual interactions or the imprint of a guiding intelligence operating across civilizations. The possibility that humans, in their formative centuries, were influenced by a coherent external force forces us to reconsider the narrative of independent invention and gradual progression that dominates mainstream history. Adding weight to this revelation is the consistency of knowledge attributed to these beings. Astronomy, architecture, metallurgy, and agriculture, skills and insights embedded in ancient texts and structures, speak to a level of sophistication seemingly impossible for a society in the 4th and 5th millennia BCE. Beyond practical knowledge, the Anunnaki appear to have shaped human consciousness itself, instilling concepts of morality, law, and governance, teaching humans not just how to survive, but how to organize societies, understand the cosmos, and cultivate wisdom. This dual role, as teachers of both material and spiritual knowledge, suggests a deliberate plan, a purposeful intervention that transformed humanity from a scattered collection of tribes into a civilization capable of enduring and evolving. Perhaps most striking, however, is the implication of ongoing presence. The accounts of modern encounters, unexplained phenomena, and hidden technologies imply that the Anunnaki's influence did not vanish with the fall of Sumer or the collapse of early empires. Instead, it seems to persist subtly in ways that intersect with human perception, culture, and knowledge. UFO sightings, whistleblower testimonies, and anomalous archaeological discoveries hint at a continuity, a thread that ties the earliest myths to contemporary mysteries. If these accounts are genuine, we are witnessing a story that is not static or ancient, but unfolding, a narrative in which humanity remains connected to intelligences whose understanding and ability surpass our own. The climactic moment of this revelation lies in understanding the full scope of their potential agenda. According to Sumerian texts and alternative interpretations, the Anunnaki may have been driven by multiple motives: resource extraction, societal management, and experimentation with human genetics and civilization. Humans, in this view, were not accidental inhabitants of the earth, but participants in a vast experiment, their evolution guided and shaped by external forces. While such a claim challenges the conventional understanding of human autonomy and progress, it also casts a fascinating light on the patterns of history, the sudden leaps in technology, and the emergence of organized societies. The Anunnaki, whether literal or symbolic, serve as a lens through which the mysteries of our past can be reconsidered with a sense of awe and possibility. Equally compelling is the suggestion that their influence extends beyond the material world into the metaphysical. The myths convey not only practical knowledge, but encoded teachings on consciousness, perception, and the nature of reality itself. These lessons, hidden in allegory and ritual, imply that the Anunnaki were aware of the potential for human growth beyond the purely physical realm. By fostering intelligence, culture, and spirituality, they may have been preparing humanity to interact with forces or realities that lie just beyond ordinary perception. This duality, technological instruction combined with spiritual guidance, paints the Anunnaki not merely as overlords or manipulators, but as architects of potential, shaping a trajectory for humanity that is at once material, intellectual, and conscious. Yet the revelation is not without its tension. Accepting the possibility of such influence forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about free will, identity, and the nature of human achievement. If our ancestors were guided, genetically altered, or instructed by beings of extraordinary intelligence, then the narrative of human independence becomes more complex. Our achievements, cultural evolution, and scientific breakthroughs may have roots that reach far deeper than previously acknowledged. This tension between empowerment and humility, the awe of discovering we are connected to a greater intelligence versus the discomfort of realizing we may not be entirely autonomous, creates a narrative charged with mystery and fascination, the very tension that keeps the story compelling and cinematic. Finally, the climactic realization is that the story of the Anunnaki is not fully closed. It remains unfinished. While fragments of myth, archaeology, and testimony provide tantalizing glimpses, much remains hidden, lost, or deliberately obscured. The tantalizing evidence compels curiosity, inviting humanity to investigate, question, and explore. The Anunnaki, in their enigmatic presence, become both a key and a mirror. A key to understanding the hidden forces that shape civilization, and a mirror reflecting the untapped potential within ourselves. By piecing together their story, we are not merely reconstructing the past. We are confronting possibilities for the future, contemplating the reach of knowledge, consciousness, and perhaps even destiny itself. In this climactic convergence of evidence, myth, and speculation, the Anunnaki emerge as figures who challenge every assumption we hold about human history. They are creators, teachers, and observers. They are mysteries that have endured through millennia, shaping civilizations, inspiring myths, and leaving echoes that continue to resonate today. The revelation is both humbling and exhilarating. Humanity's story may not be entirely our own. Yet in understanding the Anunnaki, we glimpse a reality in which our origins, potential, and destiny are intertwined with forces that transcend our ordinary comprehension. This is the moment where history, mystery, and imagination collide, offering a vision of the past that is stranger, richer, and more profound than most of us could have ever imagined. As the story of the Anunnaki unfolds, the echoes of their presence, influence, and mystery continue to resonate across time, leaving humanity with questions that are as profound as they are unsettling. Having traced their footprints from the earliest Sumerian cities, through the mythologies of distant civilizations, and even into the anomalies of the modern world, one cannot help but pause and consider the possibility that our understanding of human history is incomplete, perhaps intentionally so. The Anunnaki, whether literal beings, symbolic archetypes, or an amalgamation of both, challenge us to look beyond the surface of accepted narratives and reconsider the story of our own origins. In doing so, they remind us that history is not simply a record of human endeavor, but a tapestry interwoven with mysteries that transcend our conventional understanding. The legacy of these enigmatic beings is subtle, often hidden in plain sight. Every ziggurat, every cylinder seal, every mythic tale contains fragments of a larger story, pieces of a puzzle that have been scattered across millennia. By studying these remnants, we begin to see patterns that hint at intelligence far beyond the ordinary, a guiding hand that shaped early societies, influenced human consciousness, and left behind knowledge that has endured despite efforts to obscure it. This legacy challenges the way we perceive the past. Civilization may not have risen solely from human ingenuity or isolated cultural development. It may have been nurtured, instructed, and occasionally corrected by forces whose intentions we can only partially comprehend. The idea is both humbling and exhilarating, suggesting that our journey as a species is far more complex and extraordinary than traditional histories acknowledge. Moreover, the story of the Anunnaki invites reflection on the nature of knowledge itself. Some of their wisdom was practical, teaching humans agriculture, architecture, and astronomy, while other elements were metaphysical, embedded in myths, rituals, and sacred symbols. This duality underscores a profound principle. Knowledge is not merely the accumulation of facts, but the capacity to perceive, interpret, and act upon truths that connect the material and the spiritual. In essence, the Anunnaki narrative encourages humanity to cultivate both intellect and consciousness, to recognize that understanding the universe requires more than observation. It demands insight, reflection, and openness to possibilities that defy conventional reasoning. It is a lesson that remains remarkably relevant today as we navigate a world of rapid technological advancement and uncharted frontiers of discovery. The Anunnaki also leave us with an enduring sense of curiosity and wonder. Even in the absence of definitive proof, the fragments of their story compel us to explore, question, and imagine. The mysteries they left behind are not meant to provide simple answers, but to provoke deeper inquiry, inspiring us to look beyond the familiar and consider what might exist beyond the boundaries of accepted knowledge. Their story reminds us that human history is not merely a sequence of events recorded in texts and artifacts. It is a living dialogue between the known and the unknown, the seen and the hidden, the mortal and the immortal. In contemplating their legacy, we confront the limits of our understanding and the vast potential of what remains to be discovered. At the same time, the Anunnaki narrative serves as a mirror, reflecting both the heights and vulnerabilities of humanity. If our ancestors were guided or influenced by such beings, It suggests that the potential for greatness has always existed within us, waiting to be unlocked. Yet it also reminds us of the fragility of knowledge, how easily information can be lost, distorted, or suppressed, and how history can be shaped as much by what is hidden as by what is revealed. In this sense, the story of the Anunnaki is not merely about external forces acting upon humanity. It is about our responsibility as a species to seek, preserve, and apply knowledge wisely. The past becomes a teacher, the myths become lessons, and the enigmas of history become invitations to awaken our latent capacities for understanding and insight. As we bring this journey to a close, the final thought emerges. The story of the Anunnaki is unfinished. Much of it remains obscured, locked in forgotten texts, buried under layers of interpretation, or encoded in symbols yet to be fully deciphered. The pursuit of this knowledge is ongoing, and the path of discovery is open to those who dare to question, explore, and imagine beyond the boundaries of conventional history. In this sense, the Anunnaki are not merely figures of the past. They are catalysts for our curiosity, guardians of mysteries that challenge us to look deeper, and reminders that the story of humanity is richer, stranger, and more interconnected than we often acknowledge. Ultimately, the legacy of the Anunnaki leaves us with a profound meditation on human potential. They represent a bridge between myth and reality, technology and spirituality, history and mystery. Their influence, whether factual or symbolic, encourages us to reconsider what it means to be human, not simply a species that survives and creates, but one capable of understanding, interpreting, and transcending the boundaries imposed by time, culture, and perception. In contemplating their story, we are invited to see ourselves as part of a continuum that stretches back to the earliest civilizations, extends across the globe, and reaches forward into the future, where the pursuit of knowledge and understanding continues. The enduring question, then, is not whether the Anunnaki existed, but what their story can teach us today. It challenges us to look for hidden truths, to question accepted narratives, and to embrace the mysteries that lie at the intersection of history, myth, and possibility. In doing so, we reconnect with a sense of wonder that has driven humanity from its earliest moments. The desire to explore, understand, and ultimately find our place within a universe that is far larger, stranger, and more mysterious than we could ever imagine. The Anunnaki, in their enigmatic presence, remind us that history is alive, that the past is never fully gone, and that the mysteries of creation, consciousness, and civilization remain open for discovery, contemplation, and awe. In the quiet reflection that follows, the story of the Anunnaki leaves a final impression: that humanity's journey is ongoing, its potential vast, and its connection to the unknown intimate and profound. The myths, the artifacts, the ancient teachings, and even the whispers of modern phenomena converge to create a narrative that is both humbling and inspiring. They invite us not just to observe history, but to engage with it, to question, to imagine, and to awaken to the possibilities that lie hidden within the tapestry of time. And in this awakening, we may find that the Anunnaki are not merely relics of the past, but living reminders of a journey that is still unfolding, guiding us toward deeper understanding, broader consciousness, and a richer appreciation of the mysteries that define our world and ourselves.